Oh, hi,
Steven.
Michelle. What are you doing here?
I'm back. You missed me the last couple of times.
Feuertip. It's Feuertip time. Right. Okay, great. Welcome
Happy
back.
New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you
Hope
too.
your
Did you have
holidays were just fantastic.
I'll say I survived the holidays. It's
That's
about as good as I
These
can
days,
say.
saying you survived anything is an accomplishment.
Yeah.
So we're back, folks. Feuertips 2022. I'm hoping it's going to be a so much better year than 2021 and 2020, but I have to say that I'm keeping my expectations really low because, among other things, in the United States, it's an election year. Oh, I dread it. I dread it. But anyway, I won't get on that soapbox too much. I will say one thing, though. If you live in the United Kingdom, please pay attention to some bills that are currently being pushed through the parliament that will drastically curtail your freedoms and civil liberties, including your government can take away your British citizenship without appeal if you have dual citizenship. So please check that out. It's getting very little attention. Okay, wow. Moving on from that rant. Let's see, what other rants do I have? No, we do have a special guest today, though. His name is Falcor. He's a
Falcor. Got me there. Happy New Year, Falcor.
He's not that special a guest. He's often on my lap. Him or Moonbeam.
He's probably more regular than I am, Stephen.
Could be. But so we're back to Feuertips every 2 weeks, talk about something having to do with PL SQL, even if sometimes fairly marginally. And today we do have a really special guest. I don't know if I knew. So Toon, let's bring on Toon Koppelaars before I start talking about him.
Welcome, Toon.
Hey, hello guys.
So Toon is a member of the Real World Performance Team at Oracle, which is a group of super duper elite SWAT team helpers. Their job is to help Oracle accounts who are having trouble with getting their database up and running or maximizing its performance and so on, get it up and running. So Toon has an enormous amount of very, very gritty, frustrating, irritating real-world experience. Am I right, Toon?
Yeah. I was surprised that you seeked out me for being a guest on these Feuertips. I mean, you're running out of people, I guess, right?
Yeah, I just thought you'd probably say yes, so I figured let's go for it and see. Because I know you actually do a lot of work with Java, right? And Java-based applications.
Oh, no.
No.
I see a lot of Java applications, sure, but I never have been and never will be a Java developer.
But you do write PL SQL?
Still write PL SQL now and then, sure.
Okay, so you do have something to talk to us about.
And I wrote lots of it in the 90s and the early 2000s, yeah.
Cool. All right, then you're allowed to be on my show. So Toon's going to talk about a really fascinating era, the ORA-04068.
Yeah, existing state of packages has been discarded.
So I'm going to turn it over to Toon, then we're going to go and obviously take your questions throughout, any comments. Then we'll talk about one of my other favorite books, and we'll talk about a few organizations. I'll probably do some more rants, and then you can go back to your lives. Toon, take it away.
Yeah. So when you contacted me, this was basically the first thing that came up in my mind. Well, what can I talk about for like 15 minutes for PL SQL developers a topic that I think every PL SQL developer should be aware of and should know and have a couple of workarounds available to them. And this is the existing state of packages has been discarded. Now, what I want to do is I created a few scripts. I have 2 SQL Plus sessions here. I'm going to create objects on the left, obviously a package, and I'm going to use the package in my right window. And I want to show you the error and then provide you with a workaround for it. But before I do the workaround and after I've shown you the error, I want to probably share also the struggle that you probably have had yourself also in trying to deal with this error. But let's just go right ahead. Let's just go and start creating a package. I'm going to have a very simple package here. Package P1, it's going to have 2 procedures. Let's go ahead and create that package specification.
And by the way, Toon, as you're doing that, I just wanted to mention that Rachel, who's a regular, who joins us regularly, mentions that she's excited because she has had issues with this specifically in the past.
Okay. Well, I hope she...
You picked the right topic, Toon.
Yes.
Most people, when
I
start
get
talking,
something out of
say,
this for
I don't
sure.
care about what you're talking about. So this is...
So I've created the package. Now I'm going to create the package body, and the body is going to have some state. So the procedures basically are not going to do much, but think of these procedures of having lots of business logic that are going to use a my global, which has been declared here in the package body. Yeah? So I'm going to have a my global numeric number, a number, and I'm going to have lots of procedures here that share and use this global package variable. And I'm also going to have an initialization section where I initialize this package variable. And so this is basically a package with a state, with a state being the my global value. So let's go ahead.
When you say a package has state, that means it has essentially global level, package level variables that have a value in your session. So it's a state of that package in your session. If they don't have any variables and so forth, there's no state, correct?
Correct, yeah. So let's go ahead and create that. And once I've created it, I can start using it. So let's say I have a very simple client here that's going to call one of these procedures, p1.procedure1. So once I executed or any of these procedures in the package, I now have state, just what you said, Stephen. And every session that uses this package will have their own copy of the state. So I have now a state in this package of my global, and it has value 42. Doesn't matter the value, but I have state. And the whole issue is, if you have packages with lots of business logic, you're obviously going to modify them frequently, right? You're going to find bugs, you're going to patch them, maybe you're going to add new functionality. So you're going to want to create or replace of this package body to bring in new features and all this business logic that you have in there. Now, I'm not going to create or replace the body every time. Instead, I'm going to recompile it to get sort of like the same issue. So I'm going to do this all the time. So if I now created a new version of the package, I've added some new functionality. And the whole issue now is, if I had an existing session that already had state, guess what? You run into this error, right? So this is pretty familiar probably for most of you on the call. Existing state of packages has been discarded. And this is a very, what's the right word? Pesky
Scary
error? Scary error. It's scary in the sense that it is an error that the PL SQL engine, under all circumstances, wants to emit back to the caller. You can try and handle this error, and this is the struggle. I'm now going into the struggle part. Let's see and see if we can handle this error. But before I do that, is if I now do this again, I'm calling it again, the state is restored, right? I'm back to my 42 value into this global variable.
But if I had previously in this session changed it to 43 somehow, that value would be lost.
That value would have been lost because after this error, this will run again one time, right? Once I've received the package state has been discarded, upon the next reference towards that package, my initialization section will be rerun, which has just happened here.
One other point, it says existing state of packages, not package. Every package in the session has been reset, correct? So for example, correct.
If I would have had state for more packages that had state and that I had used in my session, are they all gone? I'm not. No.
DBMS output.putline set server output is now disabled as far as I can remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
It's everything in your session, which is interesting.
Now I have a bunch of Oracle errors here: 4068, 4061, 4065, etc., etc. Let's see and if we can handle these, right? Because we have this lovely exception mechanism in PL SQL. And I'm going to do this for a purpose. I'm going to create a handler for each of those errors that I had in the stack. Yeah, so I have 4 exceptions. I'm going to pragma initialize them into the correct Oracle error numbers. And here I'm just going to call the procedure again. And I'm going to use a SQL Plus bind variable to figure out which error message happened. I mean, I could have used DBMS output, but I like using bind variables. So I'm going to set a line to the empty string, and then depending on which exception handler we will we will go into, I'll get the corresponding error message back. So let's go ahead and see what happens now. Now my first quiz is, or actually I only have one quiz question. So this was the stack, right? What do you think will be printed here? Which one of those 4 errors will be printed?
I'm going to go with 4068.
Yeah, the top one, right?
Yeah, so
I mean,
I'm wrong. I know that.
that would have
I
been
know.
logical. Well, let's see if that happens. So let's make sure I have my state again. Yeah, I have my state. Let's get rid of the state.
Michelle, do you want to offer your choice?
I think the majority will say it's going to be the top one.
Yeah, I guess it's not.
See what's happening here.
It's almost the bottom one.
So it's this one. I'm getting this one. If I try to handle it. Yeah, so that's strange. I mean, I don't have an explanation with that. It's basically strange. But now, okay, so I now know.
That's the quote for this Feuertip. I don't have an explanation. It's strange.
I'm just going to show you the struggle that you have in trying to handle this error. This is part 1 of the struggle. You hit a different Oracle error than the one that you expect to hit. But I now know I'm going to go into this E4. So you have seen me use, when I did my first script, I hit the error and I ran it a second time and I don't get the error again because the initialization will be rerun. Well, can I do the same in PL SQL? So this procedure will hit the error. I will go into here and then let's call it a second time here. Yeah, so let's do something like this. So I now know we're going to exit on this one. We're going to exit here. So let's just try and call it again here.
So do an automatic reset for ourselves.
Do an automatic reset for ourselves. Now, first I have to make sure I have my state again. Now, see that I now still get this error because I didn't get this error yet by the PL SQL, and the PL SQL engine is still aware I haven't emitted this error yet, so you're going to get it now.
And that's because you handled the exception and did not read it.
That's because I handled the exception, silently did nothing afterwards, right? I just handled it with basically with an NULL operator. So now I've reinitialized my state. Let's get rid of the state again and now use my smart handler, which was script E2. And I get an Oracle error stack that's almost twice as big. I now get something goes wrong on line 22 where I call it again. And oh, by the way, and before that, something went wrong on line 13 where my first call was, right? So this shows you that the PL SQL engine will not allow you to handle this error, right? It has to emit this error back to the client, and there's no way around this.
Okay.
So let's get my state back.
I've already learned a few things about this error and the situation with it. This is great.
Now,
here I thought I knew everything.
If you're how do you say it? Well, the smart PL SQL developer is going to try something else. What would the smart PL SQL developer try now?
Now the pressure's on.
Stephen, what would you try now? I mean, you think you can handle it? You thought you could handle it?
And what you're saying is there another way we could try to continue on and not have to disrupt?
Yeah, let's see. Well, what if we use native Dynamic SQL? Right, so now I'm going to call this procedure not, let's say, with a hard dependency, but through native Dynamic SQL. I'm going to call it like this. Because now you could basically see this anonymous PL SQL block as a new top-level call into the PL SQL engine, right? And then the PL SQL engine may think, this is all assuming here, may think, okay, well, this top-level PL SQL block, I will emit the error there. So it thinks it has emitted the error, and then I can handle it. By the way, if I start running this, and I'll do that in a second, you'll now see that we're going to exit here. We're still not exiting here. Yeah, right. So let's just show you that we exit there now. Did I have my state back? Yeah, I have my state back. Let's get rid of the state. Now let's run, I think it was E3.
Huh.
Yeah, and you see now we exit on this guy, on the second one, by just changing to native dynamic SQL the call. Well, then in this case, let's try and recall it here. Yeah, so now we're going to try and do the second call here. So
And that's where Niels was going.
Niels
as well,
actually
by the way.
had a suggestion of doing it dynamically twice. I don't know if that really matters, but just to throw it out there.
do this also dynamically or what?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I haven't tried that.
We'll have you on for our next player.
But I'm pretty sure a person we all know, Bryn, would make sure that we would still get the error. Would have made sure we still get the error.
He couldn't make sure of anything. He was just a product manager.
So let's see what happens now. I first have to get the error. Now I'm reinitializing my state. I'm getting rid of the state, and I'm running my wrong window. I'm running my last script, E4. And I think the stack has gone even a little bigger still, but now I get still the error on line 18, right?
It's got to come all the way out of the PL SQL stack.
This is the struggle every PL SQL developer at some point in his or her career has gone through, right? I mean, you've gone through it, Stephen. I've gone through it multiple times, maybe even. There's no way that the error will go back outside the database to the client. In this case, SQL+.
Now, two questions before you get on to solving these problems. One was, can you put up Rachel's? Here, I can do it.
Here, I've got it. It's up there.
Would Pragma serially reusable help?
That I don't know. Do you know, Stephen?
I think it probably so Pragma serially reusable basically says don't maintain package state, as I understand it. So you'll declare, if you give it a value to the variable, when the server call completes, the package state is not maintained, I believe, but it would still have to come all the way out. So the answer is, I think so, and I'll check, but not right this second. Great question, Rachel.
Yeah,
and, you also put up Neelish's?
Yep.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Neelish.
Toon?
Yeah, well, at the end, I'm going to point the audience to a blog post, and I think there's a small section on Pragma serial reusable there also.
And I think I think if it avoids the error, it's not really a solution in the sense that you're basically abandoning the use of package state. Now, if you need package state in your environment for some reason, and it's a dangerous thing these days with a web-based environment, so I don't think it can be considered a solution, but it might be in some cases a way to avoid it. And then there was a question about,
So maybe Toon doesn't see the screen. I don't know if you've got your.
Neelish is. These errors are mostly in the dev environment. Correct? No, unfortunately, not correct. So I don't think Toon might have made this clear, but the primary way that you're going to see this error is you've got an application running in production with people using it, and you have to apply a patch. You have to basically recompile the package so that you can apply the new version of the package. And then historically, and I don't want to take too much of your message away. Historically, what you say is, "Hey, everybody, get off the application, so we can patch it and come back on." And that's history. And the current present is we can never ask anybody to ever leave the application because everything's 24/7.
Yeah.
Back to you, Tom.
So, on development, obviously, the rate of create or replace package bodies will be much higher than it will be on production. So maybe you have once a week a window on production where you may have this issue once a week, whereas on a development environment, you'll have it throughout the day with developers doing continuous
But in development, who really cares, right?
Yeah.
You just got to tell them, just do it again.
So back in the 90s, I came up with a solution, and it's not rocket science at all. I mean, the whole issue is you want to minimize the number of invalidations of packages that have state. Well, right now, I have my state in a package that also has a lot of business logic. Just move the state out of that package. Create a sibling package that has only the state that you need for this package. And then you can create or replace your original package, which has all the business logic, as many times as you want. So let's show you that. So I'm going to create a small sibling package P1 state, and it's going to have a setter and a getter for my global, right? It's just no rocket science at all. Let's create that package spec. And I have a body for this package, for this state package. And in this state package, I'm going to move my global variable. And the only thing that's going to be in here is the setter and the getter, which are really simple. Yeah. Once you've created this, what are the chances that you're going to create or replace this package? The frequency of modifying this package body will be much less than modifying the original one.
And you're also not assigning a default value to it. So does that mean that when this package is...
No, I'm still going to do that in my original one. So,
okay.
So I've now created my state sibling package, and I'm going to change the original body. So in my original P1, I no longer have my global, but here I'm still initializing it. Yeah, by calling the P1 state set my global 42. Yeah, and then I still have my proc1 and proc2 with all the business logic in it.
Question?
Yeah.
If you put my global into the package spec for your getter setter, and you didn't use getter setters, and you reference the my global directly on line 19 instead of through the API, would this package have state by setting the value in this package?
In P1, you mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect it.
Seems like it wouldn't. Okay.
Yeah, but I like the getter and the setters.
I do too. Yeah.
And I still would like to have. That's another point that I'll make in a second. The my global was a private global variable in the body, right? It's basically the body was it's an encapsulation within the package body was the encapsulation unit for this global, and only code in the body could reference and read and write this package variable. There's two more points that I want to make. First, now demonstrate that I've basically, well, not fixed, but highly minimized the number of times that we will get this error. So if I'm going to create my package state again, if I now recompile the original body, which doesn't have my global variable because I moved it to the state, I now no longer have this issue, right? Because my state package's state is just continuing to live. Mm-hmm. Now, the one thing that you did introduce now is everybody can now change this, right? Because my P1 state, everybody can now suddenly do this and change the global. And I don't want that because it used to be a private global for the original package. So this is the last point, and then I'm basically done. This is the no, not this one. So if in the package P1 state, I can just add this line, accessible by package P1. If I add that, then I'm going to prevent other people from other points trying to manipulate my global. So let's add that. And if I now try to do this, this no longer works, which is what I want because it was a private global variable for the P1 package.
I like that.
Yeah. So these are some of the points that I wanted to make. While doing the preparations for this, I found a beautiful blog post that I want to share also by a person called Mark Hoxie, who's basically talking about the exact same thing, but he also has a few other alternatives that I want to end up with. So he has on his blog post, and we may share this URL probably
we will,
later on.
I'll put it in the blog post.
Where is it? Here. So he says, well, are you sure you want state in this package? Because often he sees packages with state variables, with global variables where they really aren't needed because there's other ways around it. He also talks about trapping the error, but you have to trap it outside the database, right? You have to trap it in your Java stack or in your JavaScript stack or whatever you have outside calling your database. This is basically what I've been talking about, a separate globals package. The other alternative is you can also use session state from a package into $v context. $v context is a different mechanism that allows you to have sort of like global variables in your database session accessible through multiple PL SQL units. And of course, the big one would be to go and adopt edition-based redefinition. That is certainly also a way around this whole issue. This also doesn't require you to introduce a separate globals package if you go edition-based redefinition. But that's a big step.
Yeah, Neelish had mentioned that earlier.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
That's really cool stuff. So in terms of the separate globals package, can you think of reasons why we wouldn't generally, like some downsides for doing that? Because that's certainly something that everybody can do. It's not going to be like putting in edition-based redefinition, etc. I'm just wondering why wouldn't we do that in general? Obviously, it can be kind of awkward to have a big application, and we've got one package that holds all the states, or you could have multiple.
Well, no. You have sibling packages, right? I mean, you obviously you would have packages, multiple packages for different areas of your application logic.
But maybe one state per, yeah. So basically, you can control how often you get the invalidations. You could even say certain variables get updated a lot, most of them don't, and even segregate them that way. So kind of keep an eye on how things are happening in your application. Okay.
Yeah, and back in the 90s, we even took it this far because we were having a 24/7 environment over there back in the 90s. Is suppose you wanted to introduce a new global variable. Well, if you want to introduce a new global variable, well then create a second sibling package. You can modify the existing sibling package, but then you lose your state again. Just create a second sibling package.
It's an ugly solution. Yeah. We can all admit to that. Hey, we have 25 global packages. Now this is Nils is a clever fellow, so check out this comment. Use execute immediate for the call to P1 and prefix it with an execute immediate alter package P1 compile body, and the error is gone.
Yeah, I'm not going there.
And why not? I mean, dynamic recompilation of objects is always has its own set of dangers. You can have invalidations, rolling through your environment. So it's probably something you don't generally want to do. Or you have something else in mind in terms of?
Well, my gut feeling is if there is a loophole somewhere where you can prevent this error being emitted out back to the client, it will probably be plugged at some point in the future. And then your workaround is still no good. But that's the gut feeling that I just have.
And it's one of the things for people to know about anyway.
Stacy had sort of a more general question earlier on, if you can explain the things in a package structure that would give it state. So we've talked a lot about breaking it out into sister packages, but can you touch on that a little?
The reasons for having state in packages, you mean?
No, what are the things that give it state when you talk about state?
Well, the things,
constant, right?
the things that give a package state is anything that you declare here at the global level, right? Because so you typically you would declare variables here, right?
Sorry, I had stopped sharing your screen. I'm sharing it again.
Oh, okay.
All right, now we're sharing again.
Okay, so the things that give a package state is variables that you declare here at the global level instead of the variables you normally create inside the context of a procedure that you have in your package. Yeah, so this v number won't create state in my package, but this guy will create state in my package because it's declared at a global level, and it can either be in the body or in the specification of the package.
And I think it's worth pointing out, in fact, I think one of my earliest Feuertips was on this topic of state and how in a web-based application, stateless applications, package state is something that you should not generally rely on in your code. There are reasons when and how you should do it. In fact, I'm building a new utility for Insum called Insum Mail that I'll be showing you guys in the next month or so, just to give you an idea of what I've been working on. And I use a lot of package state there, but that's because everything's happening in a single server call. And so in general, I think what you want to do is watch out for using package level variables, justify them, as Mark pointed out in his first workaround, is do you really need to do this? Chances are you don't.
Yeah.
And then, but it's very important to not depend on those global state values unless you can really be sure that you're staying in the same connection, the same session, right? So if you have connection pooling, right? Toon, this is how I understand it. If you have connection pooling, then between server calls, you can end up with a different PGA and a different set of global values, a different set of state, if you reconnect to a different session in the pool.
Yeah, if you use session pooling, you should use, every time you use a connection, you should leave no state behind, because the next thread, Java thread that may come along can use this connection and think it's a fresh connection, but you left some state in it. Yeah.
So do package state with care, but it's very simple. If you don't declare a variable or a constant at the package level, they could be strings, they could be records, they could be collections. If there's nothing at the package level outside of procedures or functions, then you're good. Yeah, it's not an issue. All right.
Okay.
That was great. And as usual, we had some really good input from our listeners. So Nils, again, let's see what he says now. Begin immediate alter package body, begin and then re-execute the procedure. He's having too much fun.
Really.
So, Michelle, I'm going to go and make this decision for you. So Nils, you can pick from the group that I'm going to show in a minute, but go ahead, Toon.
Yeah, I would be interested in his workaround. So if he could, if I could get somehow his proposal, or if he could email.
No, I think you're on Twitter, aren't you? So can you put up Toon's Twitter account again?
Yes.
It is hard to spell with all those double vowels. I mean, what is with that? But anyway, so Nils, you can contact Toon maybe with some of your ideas or some of the code you've been putting together, and maybe we'll see a report from Toon afterwards about some more on this. Okay.
Okay.
We covered all the questions. Is that right?
Oh, no, I don't think we have. Jamal, you've just put Jamal's up.
Okay.
More a comment that the tip is helpful if you use Oracle reports. Okay, so let's pivot to our final stage, Toon. You're welcome to go if you got things to do, but you can't be that busy at Oracle, right? Yeah. So feel free to hang around. So what I like to do is talk to you about one of my favorite books. Then we'll show you. I'm going to show you a few organizations. And Nils, would you pick one of the organizations, and we'll make a $25 contribution to help heal our planet. So now I'll add me to the stream. And Stephen,
what did I do?
look at our infinite.
I know it wasn't letting me get. There we go. I hate going full screen. Okay, so now we'll do it. Can you share my screen, please?
There you go.
So we decided to do 3 Canadian organizations today. Insum is a Canadian, Montreal-based organization. So Nils, please pick among Idle No More, an Indigenous-led social movement, basically to not only work for the rights of First Nations in Canada, but also to help heal our environmental systems that these folks have lived in for hundreds and thousands of years and would like to keep intact. Nature Conservancy of Canada, doing all sorts of great work to support our climate and avoid deforestation and destruction of our environment. And the David Suzuki Foundation, which is pushing for ambitious, bold climate action now. All Canadian organizations. Nils, take your pick. And while you're thinking about that, I thought I'd share one of my favorite science fiction books of all time by a British writer called Mindstar Rising. So I don't know if you've heard of Peter Hamilton. This was his very first book, and it's one of the first books which to me are just tight and really great plotting and really great emotionally driven characters and a lot of interesting sci-fi. Also, it's positioned in a post-climate changed world in which essentially Britain has become a tropical island. So there's some interesting aspects of that with what's going on now. But it's just really great science fiction. It's part of a trilogy. And so I'd read the whole trilogy. They're all really good. And then after that, he started writing fatter and fatter books, and I couldn't possibly bear to read them anymore. Like books as thick as my books. Anyway, Mindstar Rising, really great book. Okay, so do we have a choice from Nils?
I think that's
one.
the David Suzuki Foundation.
Oh, okay, great.
Thank you, Nils.
All right. So thank you, Nils. And thank you, Toon. That was a really fun session. I learned a bunch of things about the 4068 situation I hadn't even realized, which is always a lot of fun for me. I'll put up a blog post soon. I got to admit, I've been kind of lazy. Didn't even publish the blog post for my last one on authID. So I'll get that out maybe by the end of this week, along with one for today. So Toon sent me the link to that blog post.
Yes.
Yeah, I will.
We'll share that in the comments.
Okay. And yeah. And thanks for joining us. And maybe I'll have you come back later in the year. So keep thinking about PL SQL and what you can share with us, because that was great.
Okay, will do.
Thank you so much.
Fun to be here.
Glad to hear it.
Bye-bye.
See everyone in a couple.
Stay safe, get vaccinated, get boosted. Don't do anything silly. Do not go out and get COVID because Omicron's mild, and why not just get it over with? That is a super duper bad idea. Remember, long COVID, we don't know what this thing is going to do to our bodies long term. So stay safe. See you later.
Stay safe, everyone.
See you in a couple
Bye.
of weeks. Bye.
Yep. Bye.